Hi everybody, today I'm just going to give you a reminder of how to innovate your story at home. So you should have a photograph of your Elmer story map that is printed off for you. And today I'm just going to use some little stickers. You could use maybe some post-it notes or some labels. You could just use some normal paper and glue it over the top to cover up some of your ideas. Now, there are several ways that you can innovate your story. Today, I'm going to show you how to change your character, how to change some of the action in the story, and then how to think of some new word choices, because all of those things will help you to make the story a little bit more of your own. Now, the first thing I decided, which I've already started, is to choose a new character. So Elmer is not going to be in my story anymore. So the first thing I can do is to change the title of my story, and my story is going to be called Elvis. And that's the name of my elephant. Elvis the elephant. And he's not a patchwork elephant, he's a stripy elephant. So the first thing I've done is to look for the two pictures where I had Elmer, and I have replaced them with a picture of Elvis. Okay, that's the first step that you can do to start innovating your story. Now, I've chosen still to keep my character as an elephant, and that means that I can keep some other parts of the story a little bit more similar to Elmer. If you're challenging yourself at home, you might choose a completely different character. So therefore, you would have to change some other parts of the story too. So for example, our story says at the beginning that there was a herd of grey elephants. Now, if you are changing your story to write about a tiger, it's quite likely that your tiger is not going to live in a herd of grey elephants. So you just have to think about how you would change that too. Okay, but for now, that's the first thing I'm going to change. Next, I'm going to look and see where the action is happening in my story, where the problem is happening. So here is where Elmer finds a tree covered in grey berries and he shakes it until all the berries fall down. That's the next part I'm going to change. So I've decided that it's not going to be a tree with grey berries that Elvis finds. Elvis is going to find a glue tree which has sticky leaves, and he is going to roll around in those sticky leaves until he becomes a camouflaged leafy elephant. So I'm going to draw my new tree, which has got very sticky leaves all over it, and that's just a tree I have made up that could be in the forest. And then I'm going to draw the sticky leaves all over the ground down here. Now remember, this isn't a piece of artwork, it's just to give you your ideas so you can practice telling your story. Okay, and then he's going to roll all around them. So I'm going to draw leaves like they're all over his face. And I might just put his trunk coming out there in the middle so that he can breathe. But he's quite camouflaged, look, covered in all of those sticky leaves. Okay, now the next part then that I need to change is moving down here, because this part of the story is where Elmer returns back to the herd and he goes back to camp and he hides in between two elephants because he's now a grey elephant, he could hide. But Elvis is covered in sticky leaves, so he's not going to hide in between two elephants. I've decided that he's going to hide in between two eucalyptus trees, because we've been learning about Chembacoli, and we have heard that in the forest around Chembacoli they have eucalyptus trees. So my Elvis is going to hide in between these eucalyptus trees. Then I think he's going to be well camouflaged, and the other elephants definitely will not see where he is hiding. Okay, so there he is, hiding in between the eucalyptus trees. And then later on in this part of the story, it said that suddenly Elmer trumpeted as loud as a thunderstorm. Now, I could leave that the same, but I imagined that if Elmer was completely covered in leaves, and he had leaves all over his trunk and he was trying to hide himself, that when he trumpeted, the leaves are going to come raining down like a shower. So on here, I'm still going to use a simile because it's going to be like a shower. I'm going to draw my shower head there to remind me that my next simile is going to be like raining down like a shower. Okay, so now I've changed my trick as well. The last thing I need to do is to just look through it carefully and think, are there any more word choices that I would like to change? So that is something I'm going to let you finish doing at home. I'm not going to go through the whole thing now, but I have already had a practice of this earlier, and here it is. This is my completely changed example, okay, and I've even stickered over, you can see at the top, the letters that Mrs. Shahin had used to represent the different adjectives in some parts where she was adding description. And if I've changed a sentence starter, I've just put a line through it and written my new choice of words above. Okay, so this is similar to what yours should be looking like at home when you're nearly finished. Right, just before I end, I'm going to read you my ideas using my story map to help me. Okay, you're not going to write your story today, you're just doing your plan, but I thought I would jot down some of my ideas to help you. Elvis. There once was a herd of elephants. Some were gigantic, some were fat, some were tiny, but all of them were grey except one. Elvis was different. He was a stripy, joyful elephant that always loved a joke. However, one night he lay on the green grasslands and felt miserable because everyone laughed at him. Early the next morning, Elvis silently slipped away and plodded through the jungle. Before long, he came across a large blue leaf tree covered with sticky leaves. He shook the bush so hard that all the leaves fell to the ground. Sneakily, he rolled all over the leaves. When Elvis stood up, he looked like a giant leaf tree. Back at camp, he hid in the middle of 2 eucalyptus trees. As he walked around in amazement, the elephants were silent, still statues. Suddenly, he lifted up his mighty trunk and trumpeted out leaves like a shower. The elephants fell over in surprise. Then the rain poured down and revealed Elvis. All the elephants laughed or chuckled as this was the funniest prank they had ever played. It was the funniest prank he had ever played. From this day forward, all the elephants celebrated this special day. For one day a year, the whole herd paraded in wonderful colours except one. Can you guess who that might be?